A new beginning. Erica Johnson stood in front of the towering entrance of the Moonstone Palace Hotel, a place renowned for its luxury and elegance. For a moment, she hesitated, her hand gripping the handle of her modest suitcase. The golden letters of the hotel's name gleamed in the late afternoon sun, reflecting off the glass doors, inviting yet imposing. She had worked tirelessly for this vacation, her first in years. As a nurse in one of the busiest hospitals in Atlanta, Erica was accustomed to the constant chaos of emergency rooms, long shifts, and the weight of caring for patients in critical need. She thrived in the high-stress environment, but often neglected her own needs. This trip was her reward, a chance to unwind and experience a world far removed from the beeping monitors and urgent voices that filled her days. But as she stood at the entrance of the Moonstone Palace, she couldn't shake a sudden wave of doubt. The people walking past her, men and women in tailored suits, designer dresses, and sparkling jewelry, seemed so at home in this setting. Erica glanced down at her own attire, a simple blue sundress and flat sandals, comfortable but worlds away from the luxury around her. "This is your time, Erica," she whispered to herself, steeling her resolve. "You've earned this." With a deep breath, she stepped forward, letting the cool air of the lobby wash over her as she entered. The lobby was breathtaking. Polished marble floors stretched out beneath her feet, while delicate chandeliers cast a soft, golden light from above. The air smelled faintly of jasmine, and soft classical music played in the background. Erica's eyes widened as she took it all in, her senses almost overwhelmed by the grandeur of it all. She approached the front desk with cautious optimism, eager to start her week of relaxation. The receptionist, a young woman with perfectly styled hair and a practiced smile, greeted her with professionalism. "Good afternoon. Welcome to the Moonstone Palace. How may I assist you?" the receptionist asked, her eyes briefly scanning Erica with a look of detached politeness. "I have a reservation under Erica Johnson," Erica said, her voice steady, but her hands trembling slightly as she handed over her confirmation details. As the receptionist tapped away at her computer, Erica glanced around the lobby. A family nearby was laughing, children playing around their feet, while a couple sat in the plush armchairs by the window, sipping on champagne. Everyone seemed so comfortable here, as though this world of luxury and ease was their natural habitat. For Erica, this was something different, a taste of the life she often saw on television, but had never lived. Then, as the receptionist handed Erica's reservation details to another man standing behind the desk, everything changed. A tall, middle-aged man with a well-groomed beard and a sharp, custom-tailored suit, the hotel manager, appeared by the desk. His name tag read Mr. Thompson, and his stern expression immediately unsettled Erica. His eyes flickered over her, and she felt an invisible wall go up between them, the warmth in the receptionist's smile quickly fading under his gaze. "I'll handle this," Mr. Thompson said brusquely, cutting off the receptionist's response before she could hand Erica her key. He looked down at Erica, his eyes narrowing slightly. "Miss Johnson, is it?" Erica nodded, confused by the sudden shift in tone. "Yes, that's right." Mr. Thompson folded his arms across his chest, his brow furrowing in a way that made Erica's stomach tighten. "I'm just making sure everything is in order. We often have last-minute cancellations, and I wouldn't want there to be any confusion." Erica blinked, feeling the weight of his words. "There's no confusion," she said slowly. "I booked this room months ago." Mr. Thompson's smile was thin, almost mocking. "I'm sure you did. But you understand, of course, that this hotel caters to a very exclusive clientele. Our rooms are not affordable for just anyone." The words hung in the air like a thick, heavy fog. Erica felt her heart race, the implications clear. Her face flushed with a mix of shock and anger, but she remained composed. "I saved for this vacation," she replied, her voice steady despite the knot forming in her throat. "I'm fully aware of the cost, and I can assure you I'm more than capable of paying for my stay." Mr. Thompson's smile faded, his eyes cold and dismissive. "Very well. We'll hold you to that," he said with a condescending nod, as if he were doing her a favor by allowing her to stay. Erica swallowed hard as he turned away without another word, leaving the receptionist to awkwardly complete the check-in process. The receptionist seemed embarrassed, avoiding eye contact as she handed Erica her room key. "Enjoy your stay, Miss Johnson," she mumbled before quickly looking away. The entire exchange left Erica feeling small and out of place. As she made her way to the elevator, she could feel the eyes of other guests on her, some curious, some judgmental. She wanted to scream, to demand that they see her as a person and not as someone who didn't belong. But instead, she straightened her shoulders, her heart pounding in her chest. She wasn't going to let them get to her, not after everything she'd worked for. The elevator doors opened with a quiet ding, and Erica stepped inside, the silence enveloping her as the doors closed. She leaned against the mirrored wall and closed her eyes, trying to steady her breath. It wasn't the first time she had been treated this way, but it didn't make it any easier to bear. The quiet, persistent prejudice that lingered in people's minds, always ready to emerge when they felt their spaces were being invaded by someone who didn't fit their narrow mold of belonging. The elevator reached her floor, and Erica stepped out into the hallway, her thoughts still swirling with a mix of anger and hurt. She followed the signs to her room, a modest suite she had carefully budgeted for after picking up extra shifts for months. When she opened the door, her breath caught for a moment. The room was beautiful, with soft, cream-colored walls, elegant furniture, and a large window offering a stunning view of the city skyline. But something felt off. This wasn't the suite she had booked. It was smaller, less grand than the pictures online had shown. Erica set her suitcase down by the bed, a heavy sigh escaping her lips. This had to be Mr. Thompson's doing. She had no doubt he had downgraded her, assuming she wouldn't notice or wouldn't care. A bitter taste filled her mouth, but she didn't have the energy to fight it now. She sank onto the bed, running her hand over the soft comforter as she stared out the window. The city below looked so full of life, so full of possibility, but all she felt was the weight of the world pressing down on her. But she wasn't going to let them ruin this for her. She had come here to rest, to find peace after years of hard work and sacrifice, and she wasn't going to let a man like Mr. Thompson or the judgmental stares of strangers take that away from her. With a renewed sense of determination, Erica stood up and walked to the bathroom to freshen up. She looked at herself in the mirror, straightened her shoulders, and gave herself a small nod of encouragement. "This is your time," she whispered again, louder this time, as if the words could push away the doubt and pain. And with that, she stepped back into the world, ready to reclaim the vacation she had earned. Confrontation and reflection. Erica couldn't help but feel unsettled by the events of the day. After unpacking her belongings and taking a long hot shower, she dressed in a comfortable outfit and headed downstairs to the hotel's restaurant, hoping that a good meal would ease her mind. The restaurant was a marvel of luxury. Elegant chandeliers hung from the ceiling, bathing the room in soft, golden light. The tables were adorned with crisp white linens, gleaming silverware, and crystal glasses. The scent of rich, savory food filled the air, but Erica's appetite was dulled by the knot of anxiety twisting in her stomach. She reminded herself that she was here to enjoy herself, not to focus on the unpleasant experience she had with Mr. Thompson. It was her vacation, and she was determined to savor it. As she approached the hostess, a young woman in a black dress, Erica felt a renewed sense of confidence. "Good evening," Erica said with a warm smile. "I'd like a table for one, please." The hostess glanced at Erica, her eyes quickly scanning her attire before her smile stiffened slightly. "Of course," she said, her voice polite, but laced with a faint undercurrent of condescension. "Do you have a reservation?" Erica hesitated. She hadn't thought to make a reservation for dinner, assuming that the restaurant wouldn't be too busy. "No, I don't," she admitted, "but I'm staying at the hotel, and I was hoping you could accommodate me." The hostess's smile faltered for a moment, but she quickly recovered. "I'll see what we can do," she said, glancing at her reservation list. After a moment, she looked up. "It seems we're quite full tonight, but I can seat you in our lounge area, if that's acceptable." Erica bit back her disappointment. She had been looking forward to a nice dinner in the restaurant, but she didn't want to make a fuss. "That's fine," she said, forcing a smile. "The lounge is fine." The hostess nodded and led Erica to a small table near the back of the lounge, away from the main dining room. The table was tucked into a corner, partially obscured from view by a large potted plant. Erica couldn't help but feel like she was being hidden away, as if she didn't belong in the restaurant with the other guests. She sat down and glanced around the lounge, noticing that it was mostly empty except for a few other diners who seemed similarly out of place. A waiter arrived moments later, his expression neutral as he handed her a menu. "Can I get you something to drink, ma'am?" Erica nodded, ordering a glass of wine, hoping it would help calm her nerves. As she waited for her drink, she opened the menu and scanned the prices. Her eyes widened at the exorbitant cost of the dishes, but she quickly reminded herself that this was a special occasion. She had worked hard, saved diligently, and this was her time to indulge. She deserved this. When the waiter returned with her wine, Erica placed her order, a small, carefully selected meal that she hoped would satisfy her without breaking the bank. As he walked away, Erica took a sip of her wine and tried to relax, focusing on the quiet atmosphere of the lounge. She gazed out at the dining room through the large glass windows, watching as other guests dined on sumptuous meals, laughing and talking without a care in the world. But her peace was short-lived. Just as she was starting to feel more at ease, she overheard a familiar voice. "Well, well, if it isn't Miss Johnson." Mr. Thompson's voice cut through the quiet hum of the lounge like a blade. Erica's stomach dropped as she turned to see the hotel manager standing a few feet away, his arms crossed over his chest and a smug expression on his face. "I'm surprised to see you here," he said, his tone dripping with sarcasm. "Didn't expect you to be dining in the restaurant. This is one of our most exclusive venues." Erica's heart raced with a mixture of anger and humiliation. She clenched her hands in her lap, trying to steady her breathing. "I'm a guest here, Mr. Thompson," she said, her voice firm but calm. "I have every right to dine in your restaurant." He raised an eyebrow, clearly unimpressed. "Oh, of course," he said, his words oozing with insincerity. "I just hope you understand that our prices are quite high. We wouldn't want any misunderstandings when the bill arrives." The insult hit Erica like a slap in the face. She had spent years enduring subtle and not so subtle comments like this, and while she was used to brushing them off, this time it was different. She had come here to relax, to enjoy herself, and instead she was being made to feel like she didn't belong. Taking a deep breath, Erica met Mr. Thompson's gaze head-on. "I'm fully aware of the prices," she said, her voice steady. "And I can assure you, I'm more than capable of paying for my meal. Now, if you'll excuse me, I'd like to enjoy my evening without any further interruptions." For a moment, Mr. Thompson looked taken aback by her directness, but he quickly regained his composure. "Of course," he said, his tone condescending. "I'll leave you to it then. Enjoy your meal." As he walked away, Erica felt the stares of the other diners in the lounge. She could hear their hushed whispers, their curious glances making her skin crawl. She felt exposed, vulnerable, as if everyone was watching her, waiting for her to slip up. But she refused to let Mr. Thompson's words affect her any more than they already had. She had worked hard for this vacation, and she wasn't going to let anyone ruin it for her. When her meal finally arrived, Erica forced herself to eat, though the food tasted like ashes in her mouth. The atmosphere in the lounge felt oppressive, the weight of the earlier confrontation pressing down on her like a heavy blanket. She glanced around the room, noticing that the few other diners were all white, all wealthy, and all watching her with varying degrees of curiosity and suspicion. As the evening wore on, Erica's mind raced. Why had she allowed herself to be treated this way? She had spent her entire life working to prove her worth, yet here she was, being made to feel like she didn't belong in a place she had every right to be. The unfairness of it all gnawed at her, and the more she thought about it, the angrier she became. By the time she finished her meal, Erica had made a decision. She wasn't going to sit quietly and accept this treatment any longer. She wasn't going to let Mr. Thompson or anyone else make her feel small or unworthy. She had earned her place in this hotel, in this restaurant, and in the world, and it was time she started acting like it. After paying her bill, Erica stood up, her resolve hardening. She made her way to the hotel's front desk, where the receptionist smiled nervously as she approached. "Is everything all right, Miss Johnson?" the receptionist asked, her voice tentative. "No, it's not," Erica said, her voice calm but firm. "I'd like to speak with the general manager, please." The receptionist blinked in surprise, clearly not expecting Erica to make such a request. "The general manager. May I ask what this is regarding?" "I'd rather discuss it with them directly," Erica said, her tone leaving no room for argument. The receptionist hesitated for a moment, then nodded and picked up the phone, dialing a number. After a brief conversation, she looked up at Erica. "The general manager will see you now. Please follow me." As Erica followed the receptionist down a long hallway, her heart pounded in her chest. She had never been one to make waves or cause trouble, but this time was different. This time, she wasn't just standing up for herself. She was standing up for every person who had ever been made to feel like they didn't belong, like they weren't good enough. She was standing up for her own dignity, for her own sense of self-worth. When they reached the door to the general manager's office, the receptionist knocked softly, then stepped aside to let Erica enter. Taking a deep breath, Erica stepped inside, her head held high, ready to confront the injustice she had endured. The time for silence was over. A line in the sand. Erica's nerves were humming as she stepped into the general manager's office. The room was a stark contrast to the elegant splendor of the hotel, a modest, functional space with shelves full of binders and a few framed certificates hanging on the walls. A large wooden desk dominated the center, behind which sat a woman who appeared to be in her late 40s. She had a polished, professional air about her, with sharp features softened by a warm smile. Her graying hair was neatly tied in a bun, and her attire was businesslike yet stylish. "Miss Johnson, I presume," the general manager said, standing and extending her hand. "I'm Olivia Reynolds, the general manager here. Please, have a seat." Erica shook her hand, noting the firm grip. As she sat down, Olivia's eyes flickered with curiosity, though there was no hint of the dismissiveness Erica had encountered with Mr. Thompson. There was a sense of authority here, but also openness, and Erica took a deep breath to steady herself. "I understand you have a concern you'd like to discuss," Olivia prompted, her tone professional but not unkind. "Yes," Erica began, choosing her words carefully. "I've had an unsettling experience during my stay, and I feel it's important that it be addressed." Olivia's expression remained neutral, though Erica detected a slight tightening around her eyes. "I'm very sorry to hear that. Could you elaborate on what happened?" Erica recounted the incidents in detail, from Mr. Thompson's offhand comment about looking out of place to the subtle but clear disrespect she encountered when she dined in the lounge. She kept her voice calm and measured, careful not to let her anger overshadow the facts. Still, as she spoke, the frustration and hurt simmered beneath the surface. She wasn't just speaking for herself. She was giving voice to the countless times she had been made to feel like an outsider in spaces where she had every right to be. Olivia listened intently, not interrupting once, though her brow furrowed slightly as Erica described Mr. Thompson's behavior. When Erica finished, there was a long pause, the silence hanging heavy in the air. "I appreciate your candor," Olivia finally said, her tone serious but measured. "This is not the kind of experience we want any guest to have at our hotel. I'm deeply sorry that you were made to feel uncomfortable, especially by a member of our staff." Erica nodded but remained quiet, waiting for what would come next. Apologies were all well and good, but what she wanted was action. She had dealt with enough hollow promises in her life to know that words, on their own, meant nothing if they weren't backed by real change. Olivia seemed to sense this. She leaned forward slightly, folding her hands on the desk. I want to assure you that this matter will be taken seriously. Mr. Thompson's conduct, as you've described it, is unacceptable. We will conduct a thorough investigation into his behavior and take appropriate measures based on what we find. Additionally, I'd like to offer my personal assistance during the remainder of your stay to ensure that you feel comfortable and respected. Erica felt a small flicker of relief, but she wasn't ready to let her guard down just yet. I appreciate that, Ms. Reynolds, she said, but I want to make something clear. I didn't come to you just to get an apology or a promise of action. This is about more than one person's behavior. It's about the way people like me are treated in places like this. Olivia's eyes widened slightly, and Erica saw that she had struck a chord. She leaned in, her voice gaining strength as she spoke. I've worked hard to get where I am. I've earned my success, and I have every right to be here, to enjoy this hotel, this restaurant, this experience, just like any other guest. But when I'm treated like I don't belong, it's not just an insult to me personally. It's a reflection of a deeper problem. A problem that affects not just me, but anyone who doesn't fit into the narrow image of who's considered worthy of luxury, of respect. Erica paused, letting her words sink in. Olivia sat back in her chair, her expression thoughtful, as if weighing what Erica had said. I understand, Olivia said quietly, after a moment. You're absolutely right, Miss Johnson, and I won't pretend that this is an isolated issue. Our industry, like many others, has its blind spots, its biases. I can't undo what's been done, but I can take steps to ensure that we, as a hotel, strive to do better. Erica was somewhat taken aback by the woman's candidness. She had expected some defensiveness or even a brush-off, but Olivia's straightforward acknowledgement of the problem was refreshing. Still, it wasn't enough. What exactly do you plan to do about it? Erica asked, her voice steady but firm. Because I'm tired of hearing people say they understand, only for nothing to change. I don't want to just be a tick mark on your list of complaints. I want to know what you're going to do. Olivia nodded, as if she had anticipated the question. First, as I said, there will be an internal review of Mr. Thompson's behavior. Depending on the outcome, he could face disciplinary action. But beyond that, I will be conducting a staff-wide review of our customer service practices, particularly when it comes to ensuring that all guests are treated with the dignity and respect they deserve, regardless of background or appearance. I will also be bringing in outside consultants to help us address any implicit biases that may be affecting the way we interact with our guests. Erica crossed her arms, considering Olivia's words. It sounded good, almost too good. She wasn't used to people in positions of power being so willing to admit fault, let alone commit to concrete steps for change. Still, there was a part of her that remained skeptical. She had seen too many promises fade away with time, too many well-intentioned initiatives dissolve into nothing. And how will I know this is actually happening? Erica asked, raising an eyebrow. I've seen plenty of companies make promises like this, but the follow-through is always lacking. Olivia met her gaze, unflinching. You have my word that this will be a priority, Miss Johnson. I can also offer you regular updates on the progress we make. And if you're willing, I would value your input throughout this process. Your perspective is important, and it's clear that we have a lot to learn. Erica was silent for a moment, considering the offer. She hadn't expected this, an invitation to be part of the solution. It was tempting, but it also felt like a heavy responsibility. Did she really want to take on the burden of helping a hotel that had made her feel unwelcome in the first place? Then again, maybe this was exactly what she needed, a chance to not just confront the problem, but to shake the change she wanted to see. Finally, Erica nodded. All right, I'll take you up on that offer, but I want to make one thing clear. I'm not doing this to help you save face. I'm doing it because I refuse to be invisible anymore." Olivia smiled, a genuine smile this time, one that softened the sharpness in her features. "I wouldn't expect anything less." With that, the conversation seemed to reach a natural conclusion. Erica stood, and Olivia rose with her, extending her hand once more. "Thank you for your honesty, Miss Johnson," Olivia said. "I look forward to working with you." Erica shook her hand, this time with a sense of mutual respect. As she turned to leave, she felt a weight lift from her shoulders. This wasn't over, but for the first time in a long time, she felt like she had a voice, and that voice had been heard. As she walked back through the hotel's lavish corridors, past the polished marble floors and gleaming chandeliers, Erica felt a strange mix of emotions: relief, anger, hope, and determination. She had drawn a line in the sand, and now it was up to Olivia and her team to prove that they were willing to cross it. But more than that, Erica had proven something to herself, that she wasn't just a guest in someone else's world. She belonged here, and she wasn't going to let anyone make her feel otherwise ever again. The ripple effect. The next morning, Erica awoke to the soft rays of sunlight filtering through the heavy drapes of her suite. The room, as always, was immaculate, with crisp sheets that smelled faintly of lavender and a plush carpet beneath her feet. Yet the luxury that had once felt oppressive now seemed to carry a different weight. Today, it was a reminder of the power she had claimed the day before, power that wasn't handed to her, but that she had taken for herself. As she got ready for the day, Erica couldn't help but think back on her conversation with Olivia. It was hard to shake the feeling of cautious optimism. The hotel's general manager had promised change, but promises were fragile things. The real test would be in the actions that followed. Stepping out into the corridor, Erica noticed a few more staff members than usual, bustling about with an air of focused determination. They nodded to her as she passed, their smiles warmer than before. Erica couldn't help but wonder if her encounter with Olivia had already sent ripples through the staff. Word traveled fast in places like this. As she made her way to the hotel's restaurant for breakfast, she spotted Mr. Thompson standing at the front desk. Their eyes met briefly, and Erica felt a rush of conflicting emotions: anger, disappointment, and a hint of satisfaction. He quickly averted his gaze, busying himself with some paperwork, as if to avoid any further interaction. She wasn't surprised. After her meeting with Olivia, it was clear that the wheels were already turning, and Thompson probably knew his behavior was under scrutiny. Good, she thought. He should feel uncomfortable. But she wasn't here for petty revenge. It wasn't about him anymore. It was about the bigger picture. As she approached the hostess stand, Erica saw a young woman in a sleek black uniform waiting with a welcoming smile. Her name tag read Maya. Erica had seen her before, but there was something different in the way Maya greeted her now, an extra layer of respect that hadn't been there during her earlier visits. "Good morning, Miss Johnson," Maya said, her voice polite but warmer than it had been. "Your table is ready. Would you prefer your usual spot by the window?" Erica paused, studying the hostess for a moment. She detected no forced politeness, no undercurrent of judgment or condescension. For the first time, it felt genuine, as if Maya was truly seeing her as an equal, not just another guest passing through. "Yes, thank you, Maya," Erica replied with a small smile. The window would be perfect. As she followed Maya to her table, Erica noticed subtle changes in the restaurant's atmosphere. The waitstaff moved with a heightened attentiveness, their interactions with guests more fluid and careful. It was as though they had all been given an unspoken directive: pay attention. Treat everyone with the respect they deserve. Settling into her seat by the window, Erica took a moment to appreciate the view of the hotel's meticulously manicured gardens. It was a beautiful scene, peaceful and serene, and for the first time since her arrival, she felt a sense of belonging here. Her waiter arrived promptly, a young man named Carlos. He greeted her with the same level of attentiveness as Maya, taking her order with a sincerity that, again, felt different from before. Erica had to admit that the changes, subtle as they were, felt significant. "Is everything to your liking so far, Ms. Johnson?" Carlos asked as he handed her the menu. There was a slight hesitation in his voice, as if he was unsure of how to navigate this new dynamic. Erica smiled, appreciating the effort. "Yes, thank you, Carlos. Everything's great." As she ordered her breakfast and settled in, Erica's mind began to wander back to her conversation with Olivia the day before. She couldn't help but replay the moments in her head. The firmness of her stance, Olivia's measured but genuine response. Erica had made it clear that she wasn't just looking for an apology or a quick fix. What she wanted was systemic change, not just for herself, but for anyone else who might walk through the doors of the hotel feeling out of place or unwelcomed. She knew that real change didn't happen overnight. It was going to take time, effort, and continuous pressure. But for the first time in a long time, she felt like maybe, just maybe, things could be different. Midway through her breakfast, her phone buzzed. Erica glanced down to see an email notification from Olivia Reynolds. She hesitated for a moment before opening it. The meeting of minds. Days passed, and Erica found herself settling into a new rhythm at the hotel. The subtle changes she had noticed after her confrontation with Olivia had only grown more apparent as time went on. The staff, once distant and perfunctory in their duties, now seemed to carry themselves with a different energy, more attentive, more thoughtful. It was as if the hotel itself was slowly awakening to the idea that every guest, regardless of appearance or background, deserved not just service, but respect. Erica couldn't deny the sense of satisfaction she felt each time she saw these small changes ripple through her daily interactions. But it was a cautious satisfaction. She knew from experience that progress, especially the kind that challenged deep-rooted assumptions and behaviors, was often fragile. It was in this mindset that she approached her second meeting with Olivia. The email invitation had stayed on her mind, tugging at her sense of responsibility. After some thought, Erica had decided to accept. This wasn't just about her anymore. She had the opportunity to be part of something larger, to help shape a culture that would impact future guests. Guests who might not have the voice or confidence to demand better treatment. On the day of the meeting, Erica dressed carefully. It wasn't about impressing Olivia or anyone else at the hotel. It was about feeling centered, strong, and intentional. She chose a tailored blazer, a crisp blouse, and dark jeans, professional, but not overly formal. She was here as a collaborator, not a subordinate, and her appearance would reflect that. As she approached Olivia's office, the familiar tension of anticipation filled her chest. Despite the calm facade she wore, Erica couldn't fully dismiss the doubts that lingered. What if this was all just a surface-level attempt to pacify her? What if nothing substantial had changed beneath the surface? She pushed those thoughts aside as Olivia's assistant greeted her and led her into the office. The space was just as she remembered it, bright, tastefully furnished, with floor-to-ceiling windows that offered a stunning view of the city skyline. But today, it felt less intimidating. This was no longer a battlefield. It was a place where real dialogue could happen. Olivia rose from her desk with a smile that seemed more genuine than before. She extended her hand as Erica entered the room. "Ms. Johnson, thank you so much for coming back to meet with me. I truly appreciate it," Olivia said warmly. Her demeanor had softened since their first encounter. There was still a polished professionalism about her, but now it was tempered with an openness that hadn't been there before. Erica shook her hand firmly. "Thank you for reaching out. I wasn't sure what to expect after our last conversation, but I'm glad to be here." They both sat down, Olivia gesturing toward a small table by the windows, where coffee and pastries were laid out. The setup felt more casual, as though Olivia wanted to signal that this was a meeting of equals, not a formal corporate exchange. "I want to start by saying that your feedback has already made a significant impact," Olivia began, pouring a cup of coffee for Erica before serving herself. "We've initiated several changes, both in terms of staff training and internal policies, but I'm hoping we can go further. I'd love to hear your thoughts on where we go from here. Erica appreciated Olivia's straightforward approach. There was no defensiveness, no attempt to sugarcoat the situation. It was refreshing, especially in a space where so many interactions were layered with corporate jargon and evasions. I've noticed the changes, Erica said, taking a sip of her coffee. The staff seems more attentive, and I haven't had any further negative experiences. But I think we both know that real change goes beyond immediate fixes. It's about creating a culture where respect is the default, not just something that's offered when someone speaks up. Olivia nodded thoughtfully, her gaze never leaving Erica's. I agree. And that's where I think we need to focus our efforts moving forward. We've implemented a training program, but I want to make sure it's not just a one-time thing. We need ongoing education, regular evaluations, and most importantly, accountability. Erica leaned forward slightly, feeling more engaged. Accountability is key. It's not enough to say that you've trained your staff. There needs to be follow-up. What happens when someone doesn't adhere to these new standards? How do you ensure that this isn't just a short-term adjustment, but a lasting shift in how the hotel operates? Olivia smiled, though there was a hint of tension in her expression. You're absolutely right. We've already started putting systems in place to track performance and guest feedback more closely. But I'd be lying if I said it's going to be easy. Cultural shifts like this take time, and there will undoubtedly be resistance from some staff members. Erica could sense the weight of Olivia's words. As a general manager, she was responsible for the day-to-day operations of a complex and high-end establishment. But she was also, in this moment, trying to be the architect of change within a system that was comfortable with the status quo. Resistance is inevitable, Erica acknowledged. But that's why leadership is so important. If the people at the top aren't fully committed, then the rest of the staff won't be either. It has to come from you, from the executive team. If they see that you're serious about this, they'll have no choice but to follow. Olivia sighed lightly, nodding again. That's exactly what I've been thinking, and that's why I wanted to meet with you. I don't want this to just be another corporate initiative that fades away after a few months. I want to create a space where every guest feels valued, where we're not just meeting expectations, but exceeding them. And I think your insights could really help us get there. Erica raised an eyebrow. You want me to be involved? Olivia hesitated for a moment, choosing her words carefully. Not in an official capacity, unless that's something you'd be interested in. But I'd love to have you as a continued voice in this process. Someone who can provide honest feedback, who can hold us accountable when we fall short. You've already shown that you're not afraid to speak up, and that's exactly what we need. Erica was taken aback by the offer. She had expected to come in, offer some feedback, and then walk away, satisfied that she had done her part. But Olivia was suggesting something deeper, a role, even if informal, in shaping the future of the hotel's culture. Part of her was intrigued by the idea. She had always been someone who believed in the power of action, in not just talking about change, but making it happen. And yet, there was a part of her that felt hesitant. Did she really want to take on this responsibility? Could she afford to invest her time and energy into this hotel when there were so many other places where her efforts might be needed? I'm flattered by the offer, Erica said slowly, her mind racing. But I'll need some time to think about it. I didn't come here expecting to get involved beyond offering my feedback. Olivia smiled, a hint of relief in her eyes. Of course. Take all the time you need. I just want you to know that your voice is valued here. Whether you choose to stay involved or not, you've already made a difference. Erica nodded, appreciating Olivia's understanding. Thank you. I'll definitely consider it. The meeting continued with more discussion about specific changes the hotel was implementing, new policies around guest interaction, anonymous staff surveys, and plans for ongoing diversity and sensitivity training. Erica offered her thoughts freely, feeling more comfortable as the conversation flowed. By the time they wrapped up, she felt that they had not only covered significant ground, but also built a foundation for something more lasting. As Erica left Olivia's office, The sunlight streaming through the windows felt a little brighter, the air a little lighter. There was still much work to be done, but for the first time, Erica felt like she was part of the solution, not just someone who had been wronged. Walking through the hotel lobby, she noticed the familiar faces of the staff. Maya, Carlos, even Mr. Thompson, who gave her a polite nod from across the room. These were the people whose lives would be impacted by the changes she had set in motion, and perhaps in turn, they would go on to impact others in ways neither she nor they could yet imagine. The ripple effect had begun, and Erica had a choice to make. Would she let it carry her along, or would she dive in and help guide its course? As she stepped out into the bustling city streets, she realized that the answer, like so many things, was still unfolding. Ripples beyond the surface. The evening sky over the city was a deep shade of indigo, dotted with the early stars as Erica strolled down the boulevard, her thoughts still lingering on her meeting with Olivia. The offer had caught her off guard, not just because of its unexpectedness, but because it tapped into something deeper, something she hadn't fully realized was stirring within her. Erica had always seen herself as a woman of principle, someone who stood up for what was right, but this was the first time she'd been invited to do more than just point out a problem. Olivia had placed a level of trust in her that felt weighty, and it was not a burden she took lightly. As she walked, the hum of the city blended with the quiet buzz of her mind, processing the possibilities that lay ahead. The idea of staying involved with the hotel, helping guide their transformation from the inside, appealed to her sense of justice. But there was also a part of her that worried about whether she had the bandwidth for this fight. After all, the hotel had been just one small chapter in her larger story. She had plans, dreams, and passions that stretched beyond this establishment. Did she really want to tether herself to this place? Erica's thoughts were interrupted by the sudden vibration of her phone in her jacket pocket. Glancing at the screen, she saw a familiar name flashing across it. Her best friend, Donnie. With a smile, she answered, "Hey, Donnie. What's up?" "Girl, I was just thinking about you. How's everything going? Did you ever meet with that hotel manager lady again?" Erica chuckled. Leave it to Donnie to jump right to the point. "Yeah, I did. Actually, I just came from that meeting." "Oh, really? Spill. What happened? Did she grovel at your feet and beg for your forgiveness?" "Not exactly," Erica replied, laughing. "But it went well, surprisingly well, actually. She's serious about making changes and wants me to stay involved in the process." Danny was quiet for a moment, and Erica could almost hear the gears turning in her friend's head. "Wait, like, involved how? Are you going to be consulting for them or something?" "I don't know yet," Erica admitted. "She wants me to offer feedback, to hold them accountable, maybe even help shape their training programs. It's a bigger role than I expected." "Wow," Danny said, the awe evident in her voice. "That's kind of huge, They're basically giving you a seat at the table." Erica paused, her steps slowing as she considered Danny's words. A seat at the table. It hadn't fully sunk in until that moment, but that's exactly what it was. For all her talk about wanting systemic change, this was an opportunity to actually influence something real. Not just as a consumer voicing a complaint, but as an architect of the future they wanted to build. "I know," Erica said softly, her voice reflecting the weight of the realization. "It's just a lot. I'm not sure if I'm ready to take this on. I mean, it's not like I don't have other things going on, you know." "True, but you're always talking about wanting to make a difference," Donnie pointed out. "This could be your chance. Plus, it sounds like they actually respect your voice, which is more than you can say for a lot of companies." Erica sighed, glancing up at the twinkling skyline above. "Yeah, but it's a big commitment. And what if it's all just for show? What if nothing really changes?" Danny's voice softened, taking on that wise, steady tone that Erica had come to rely on over the years. "Look, there's always a risk that things won't go the way you want, but that doesn't mean it's not worth trying. You've already made an impact just by speaking up." Imagine what you could do if you stay involved. And if it doesn't work out, at least you'll know you tried. Erica smiled, feeling a rush of gratitude for her friend's unwavering support. You're right. I guess I just need to figure out what I want out of this. I don't want to get stuck in something that distracts me from my other goals. Totally understandable, Danny said. But hey, you're good at figuring stuff out. Just give it some thought and see how it feels. You'll know what to do when the time's right. As the conversation shifted to lighter topics, Danny's latest date, a new TV show they'd both been obsessing over, Erica felt the tension in her chest ease a little. There was no rush to make a decision tonight. She had time to think it through, to weigh the pros and cons, and to decide what role she wanted to play in this unfolding chapter. By the time she hung up, Erica felt more grounded. Danny had a way of helping her see things clearly, of cutting through the noise and focusing on what really mattered. And what mattered now was that Erica had a voice, and that voice was being heard. Whether she chose to use it here, in this hotel, or somewhere else entirely, that was up to her. The next morning, Erica awoke with a sense of clarity she hadn't felt in days. She decided to spend the day reflecting, taking a long walk through the nearby park to clear her mind. The city's morning hustle was in full swing, but Erica tuned it out, letting the rhythm of her footsteps guide her as she wandered through the tree-lined paths. As she walked, she replayed the events of the past few weeks in her mind. The initial encounter with Olivia, the confrontations with the hotel staff, the subtle but meaningful changes she'd noticed. It was hard to believe how much had shifted in such a short time. The hotel had gone from a place of frustration to a potential platform for real change. But what really struck Erica as she walked was how much she had changed, too. In speaking up, in demanding better, she had tapped into a strength that had always been there, but had rarely been called upon so directly. She had faced resistance, but she hadn't backed down. She had made herself heard. And now she had the chance to take that momentum even further. The thought was both empowering and daunting. Erica had always been someone who valued her independence, who thrived on pursuing her own passions and interests. The idea of becoming more deeply involved with the hotel, of tying herself to its future, felt like a departure from that. But at the same time, wasn't this exactly the kind of opportunity she'd been looking for? A chance to not just critique the system, but to actively shape it. By the time she reached the park's edge, Erica had made up her mind. She would accept Olivia's offer, not as a long-term commitment, but as a way to ensure that the changes she had sparked would continue to grow. She would use her voice, her insights, and her perspective to help guide the hotel toward the inclusive, respectful environment it had the potential to become. But she would do it on her terms. With a sense of resolve, Erica pulled out her phone and sent a message to Olivia. "I've been thinking about your offer. I'd like to be involved in an advisory capacity, but with clear boundaries on time and expectations. Let's meet next week to discuss what that could look like." The message was direct, professional, but also clear in its intent. Erica wasn't here to be anyone's token. She was here to make a real difference, and she wouldn't settle for anything less. As she hit send, a sense of calm settled over her. For the first time in a long while, she felt fully in control of her path forward. Whatever came next, she was ready. And as the sun rose higher in the sky, casting its warm glow over the city, Erica knew that this was just the beginning of something far greater than she had ever imagined.